This is the Public Art Advisory Committee, Monday, November 21st at 4:30 p.m. This meeting is compliant with the Ralph M. Brown Act as amended by California Assembly Bill number 361, effective September 16th, 2021, providing for a public health emergency exception to the standard teleconference rules required by the Brown Act. The purpose of this is to provide a safe environment for the public, staff, and the committee while allowing for public participation. The public may address the committee using exclusively remote public comment options. The committee may take action on any item listed on the agenda. The meeting will be exclusively virtual meeting. The agenda materials may be viewed online at www.brisbaneca.org at least 72 hours prior to the meeting. Meeting participants are encouraged to submit public comments in writing in advance of the meeting. Aside from commenting while on the Zoom meeting, the following email and text line will be monitored during the meeting, and public comments received will be noted for the record during public comment or during an item. May email aibera@brisbaneca.org or text 415-407-2675. All right, roll call. Councilmember Cunningham.
I am here.
Councilmember Davis.
Here.
Chair Davis.
Here.
Vice Chair Salmon is absent. Park and Rec Commissioner Greenlee.
You're muted.
Sorry, I'm here.
Park and Recreation Commissioner Sewell.
I'm here.
Committee Member Grossman.
I'm here.
Wonderful. Okay, Danette, you want to take it away for approval of agenda?
Sure, go ahead. Let's go ahead and approve the agenda for today. Or do I have an approval? Have
I
a
approve.
motion?
I motion to approve the agenda.
Do you have a second?
Okay. Second.
Roll call. Councilmember Cunningham.
Aye.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Chair Davis.
Aye.
Vice Chair absent. Park and Recreation Commissioner Greenlee.
Aye.
Park and Recreation Commissioner Sewell.
Aye.
Committee Member Grossman.
Aye.
Great.
All right. Approval of the minutes of September 19th, 2022. Do I have a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second?
Sure, why not? Yes.
All right. Councilmember Cunningham.
Aye.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Chair Davis.
Aye.
Park and Recreation Commissioner Sewell.
Aye.
Committee Member Grossman.
Aye.
Park and Rec Commissioner Greenlee will abstain.
Abstain.
Great. Wonderful.
All right, we'll move on to presentations and discussion items. Item B, review the proposal for art consultant services for community park art piece.
Yes, so we have received 2 proposals to work with the committee on finding an artist to place a piece of artwork at the community park. We've provided you both of those proposals. The idea for today is to have the committee review the proposals and see if they would like to invite one or both back for interviews to see if you would like one or either of them to be your consultant.
Okay, so at this time, I'll open it up to committee members. I'll just call on you randomly for your thoughts. So I will call on Madison.
Thanks. I mean, they both look like they have an extensive background. My suggestion, I mean, we could painstakingly go through their resumes and their body of work, but I think what makes the most sense to me is to invite them both for an interview. I think it's not like we're having to go through 10 different people. I think we invite them both for an interview. We kind of talk with them about their body of work and what they can bring to the project and go from there. I think it's best that we have, best for us to evaluate both options and not just choose one right now without talking to them. So I would say invite them both. They're both seem to be pretty qualified.
Okay, thank you, Madison. Karen? Any feedback on that, comments?
I'm just going to add an aside. I agree with what Madison said. You know, talking to people in person is going to give us a much better idea of who they are. Do we like them at a personal level enough to want to work with them, aside from resumes? I think we've seen in the past that people can write an incredible resume, and then you get to interview that person and you go, no way in hell do I want to inflict that human being on the committee, city council, or staff. And I just remember something not so long ago where there was a resume that blew me out of the water, and I'm like, rah, 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 ready to hire this person. And then when we interviewed them, I'm like, over my dead body. So, yep, that's my only comment, is that, you know, we've all got to work with whoever we choose. And, you know, one resume over the other definitely looks much more glossy and shiny and sparkly, but, you know, the other person might just be the person who we go, wow, that's a really nice fit for our community. So from that perspective, I say, I agree with what Madison said. Thanks.
All
Thank you.
right, thank you, Karen. Beth, do you have any comments on that item?
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll start by saying I was hoping we would get more to choose from. I'm kind of not surprised because, first of all, I'm not sure where it all went out to. And second of all, I didn't personally feel that the call was very clear about what we wanted, because I don't think we're clear about what we wanted. So I just want to preface that with that. I have not excited about either of them, particularly the one, I don't know where they were from that did all the medical stuff. Artist healing and all that. And I was kind of like, okay, great. But it was all of her clients or their clients as a business were all medical, or, you know, retirement assisted living, those kinds of places. So it just didn't feel like it was a fit at all, for trying to do a park. And the other one, she seemed very qualified, but I was also kind of wondering, like, okay, but it's a small job. It's a park here in Brisbane, and I didn't feel like it warranted paying for all of the travel that it would necessitate to bring her up from Los Angeles, even though I did think that she's pretty qualified. I just think that for the scope of this job, that, you know, it's a small job, it's a small project, and that we could probably find somebody that could lead us through this, that was local. But I really think that we still don't really know what we want. And, you know, I've had time away spending, I spent 4 months in Canada, and they have amazing public art and amazing parks and things like that. And I saw so much possibility and got excited about things. And then I was just sort of thinking, like, well, we could do that here too. There's something, you know, we could, but I just feel like we haven't, as a committee, come to any kind of vision about what we want to even begin to communicate to a consultant. So that, therefore, what I saw, particularly, I think it was in the one that did the medical, that had the medical background. It was just like, she basically just copied and pasted in her proposal what we said we wanted. And I was kind of like, okay, well, that was not impressive. So that's where I stand.
Okay, thank you, Beth. Lisa?
Well, I think it's kind of an interesting quandary, because I think that we need somebody who will focus on this, and yet we are kind of small potatoes. So it's hard to get somebody who's a real, you know, focused professional to focus on our little project. I like the idea of interviewing people, but I don't want it to be a big, long interview. Like, it would be nice to limit it to a Zoom interview that was a certain amount of time, just so that we're not, again, wasting people's time with big, long interviews. Other than that, I don't know how you get local people. This is, weren't we gonna get a consultant to tell us how to do this? Anyways, I don't know how to get more local people, but I agree with what Beth said about, you know, having somebody who doesn't need to travel long distances to get here. Anyways, there you go. That's my 2 cents.
All right, thank you, Lisa. Tom?
As always, I agree with everybody in the room. 2 seems like too few. I don't like, I'm a Giants fan, so LA, I don't know. Boy, it'd be great to get, it'd be great to interview everybody in person for a short period of time. And then it would be great to get more people that are at least from Northern California, at least from, the Bay Area. Is it okay to reach out and do this again, or are we rushing to get this done? And if we are rushing, then I would vote Beth to be the person to be our consultant. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
All right, thank you, Tom. All right, so I was just gonna make a couple comments. One, I guess the first one I saw was the one from Venice that seemed to have some experience with public art with Torrance and Glendale, and I think it was Santa Barbara. The examples of the art I wasn't really impressed with, so I think that was the thing that I think the one building that had some art, but then everything else seemed really dated. I wasn't impressed with the pieces that were shown. The part that actually struck me in the resume, or in what that was commented, was that they're actually familiar with Brisbane. So that was the plus, that they had a sister or relative on Inyo and they're very familiar with the park. So that was a part that got me excited, because they talked about how the park was used and the farmer's market. And so of the 2 applicants, this one has actually been here and has some understanding of Brisbane. So that was the positive that kind of outweighed the samples of art that were shown in her packet. The other one seems like, that one is from Santa Rosa. So that's actually more of a local person that wouldn't maybe require the cost of travel fees and hotels and per diem. So that was the positive on that side. It was a little bit more of an extensive proposal. There was a little confusion I had on page 13 on the fee structure. I was a little confused from 5,025 to 35 to 40, and then 35, 30. I was a little bit confused on their projection of what their fee was. But I thought it was interesting also that they had like a projected date, like it was this amount of time. So I did appreciate the thought that went into that, and how much time they thought it would take to do various benchmarks. I did like that. There was one paragraph that I thought was interesting. I think it was on page 9. They talked about the public engagement, the division development process, and the art concept selection process. They talked about that. I think that was the second paragraph. But the part that did concern me was that it was more of a public-private art, and it seemed to be all in the medical field. So that was so, but I mean, I don't know, at this point, this is the second time we've gone out to the process, because the first time we got nothing. But I do agree that I kind of feel like I still really feel like that area is a really big unknown. It's like, reading about it, I felt like, okay, we're going to put a piece of art back here, but I feel like the whole area needs to be thought of as a big holistic project, which seems like it's going to be more than a $200,000 project, including art and a consultant. And so I would just hate to just throw a piece of art on that side of the park. And, I think there's landscaping, and I just don't know it enough to think that 200,000 is within the budget. So I still feel like I just feel like there's really not a clear vision, and that I feel like we still need a bigger plan. So that's my 2 cents on that. So I know a question was raised, Stuart, about where we advertise. So maybe you would like to, I know you've put the word out a lot to the typical places, and I'm just not sure if just the way our application went out didn't really draw applicants. It would be great if there were more. So maybe you can answer some of those questions.
Sure. I mean, we put it out to the California Art Council. We put it out through the Northern Public Art Group that, the administrators and artists and consultants are part of. We sent it out specifically to people who this committee has recommended, has thought of to be part of the master plan or part of this kind of stuff. So, I mean, we tried to reach out to those people who seemed like this committee was interested in, and then broader through the California Art Council. And when we call for artists, California Art Council, can bring in 20 to 30 different artists. And the person from Berkeley who runs the Northern Public Art group says, that group is the best one to try and get information out to. So I think we did what we could. I think the challenge is that asking for this kind of a consultant is not, there aren't a lot of them out there. I think, if you were to say that here's this type of art that we would like to place there as a committee, and you said, we'd like a statue, we'd like something, we would like topiary, we'd like whatever it is, you would probably find you would get, through those kinds of, through the California Art Council, through the Art Network in Northern California, you'd probably get a lot more people responding. This is, I think a lot of the people who do this kind of work are connected with other groups already and aren't really out there on their own, is the sense I got. And then, sending it out to the people who've done the master plans, we didn't get any responses from them. Send it to the group in Minnesota that Beth talked about and didn't get a response from them. So I just don't know, if this, if you're going to get a better response, if you say, wait 3 months and do it again. I think, maybe what Beth is saying is somewhat true, is being more defined in what you're looking for might help get you a better response from either a consultant or from artists. If I think if you look at what we did for the process for the mural at the skateboard park, given that, we didn't actually ultimately do it, but the artists went out and got community input as to what was going to go on to go there. So, I mean, the artists themselves can go out and do community input and work with the community to find out what you want. The challenge with that is if you go out and just say, we're looking for a piece of art in this area, you're going to get a lot of different variety. And then the committee is going to be, make a decision based on a type of art to begin with that might be there, as opposed to, working with a consultant to help you determine what type of art that you would want. So, I mean, I think it's a challenge either way. And I would agree that if you want to interview for both people, what staff would recommend is, maybe a 20-minute period of time where they present their qualifications and what they're thinking about it, and then a 20-minute period for questions from the committee. And, it's a 40-minute, 45-minute process for each of them. You can do both of them in the same day, and then you can make a decision is, or will one of these people be able to help us get what we want out of this? And if neither of them do, then that's fine. We just won't, don't hire either of them. And you can go and, work on potentially determining yourselves what type of art you would want and, deal with that. Or, you can work on more focusing on the master plan. And I know this conversation has come up a number of times. You can focus on the master plan and say, as part of the master plan, obviously this would be one of those areas that would be part of the master plan. But I think you'd end up with the same challenge of that the person who's doing your master plan is still not going to tell you this is the type of art you want there. They'll say, yes, this is a good place for art, but they're not going to say, and in this place, you're going to want X, because they won't know what you're going to want in any of the locations. It's just, I think the master plans really talks about the themes that you're looking for. So I'm happy to do whatever you want me to do.
Okay, I just have a question and then I'll open it up again for discussion. I did have a question about, well, I want to make a comment that I recall when we were interviewing the people from, I don't know, Belmont and the other cities, we had that graciously gave their time and we asked them about the process of their master plan. And I'm not sure if we asked both of them, but I do remember one of them asking if they hire consultants when they do their projects, and they said no, that they actually have a master plan. And so I'm just wondering if it's best to take these funds and apply them towards working on the master plan that may help us navigate this project in the future. So that was my question on that.
I mean, I think you have enough funds to do both if you would like to. I mean, you have well over $1 million available. There's more building going on. It's at the moment, this isn't a matter of not having enough money to do what you want. I think it is a question of, what type of art would you like to have there? And that would help us be able to tailor an RFP for a call for artists. And within the call for artists, we can see, what other cities have done with that type of work in that type of, in an area of that size, to put a different type of a budget together. And staff can work with you to determine what type of art. I mean, we went through that process for the library. We went through that process for what happened, what was available for the skateboard park. And you got lots of creative ideas for the skateboard park. You got people who not only looked at that wall as a place for art, but looked at all the elements as a place for art. So when you call for artists, you're letting them do what they do best, which is reimagine an area. And that, and as those, staff has done that. Staff is, we've attracted 20 to 30 different artists in each of those two cases, with a whole variety of, opportunities. And I would say that, we have a number of artists who we've received proposals for, who do statues, who do, who do other types of work that we would then be able to, solicit RFPs from as well, who we already have a group of people, of artists, but it's just not knowing what type of art you're looking for out there. It makes it hard, to come up with something. I think that's what the group was thinking, was that this person can help you define what that is and then go out and do the proposals. And as I said, I'm not sure how many people are out there are looking at like that type of a work when they're, when they're doing this kind of stuff. I think what you get is a lot of artists who want to participate. And unfortunately, artists are not the consultants. And I did receive a couple of calls from artists who were very interested in doing something, but when I said what we're looking for is a consultant, and they didn't, and here's the RFP, they never responded to me, or one responded to me and basically responded with their art portfolio, not with a response to the RFP.
Okay.
So hopefully that helps.
Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to circle back to all the committee members in the order that we just went through, and for any more comments before we move on and decide what we're doing. So Madison, do you have any more comments on this topic?
It sounds like there was like an exhaustive outreach. So I think we should just move forward, interview. And if we feel like one of those is really not a fit, then we can assess at that time. I think, we talk about things being good practice. I think it doesn't hurt us to interview. I think especially because there's only 2 people, it would be great if maybe we could interview on site. I think that could be interesting. And that way they could get a scope of like what that space looks like. And I don't know if the person from LA would be willing to come and maybe she has family connection here in town, so she might be able to figure out how to come up here for that. But if not, I think we should definitely at least move forward with interviewing both and seeing what we gain from that process. And if we need to circle back and say, hey, like none of these people are a fit, I think that that's a lesson that we learned the first time. I think it's hard to say right now, like we know that neither of them are a fit without talking to them. So we should just interview them. And if we feel like we can't move forward, then maybe we table this project and we move forward with another site, or we move forward with just working on the public art master plan and not work on any projects. But I say we interview.
Okay, thank you. Karen?
I would interview, but at this point, sort of fairly unimpressed with both for a lot of different reasons. But I don't want to say that publicly because that's sort of, I'm showing a bias that I don't want to show. So if we're going to interview them, let's just interview them, put preconceptions aside. If we cannot get any more people to apply to be a consultant, and I do believe it needs to be an external to the city, otherwise we're going to have different kind of biases involved. So I don't know. I don't know how this is going to move forward. We're going through a process that's laborious and a pain in the butt for everybody. But we've got 2 applicants on the table. Let's interview them. And if at the end of that application, we all go, you know, this is really not going to work. We have to find another way to move forward.
It could also be too, like maybe our RFP is not refined enough about what we're looking for, but it could be that the budget is just simply not high enough. Like this could be giving us an indication that for a $200,000 budget, which is not going, it's not going all to the consultant, right? Only a small portion of that is going to the consultant. Then it's not bringing, that amount of money is not bringing consultants to the table, or consultants that we like to the table. So it could be a problem of being more refined, but it could also be like simply our budget's not big enough. And maybe if we had a $300,000 or $400,000 budget, we could get totally different feedback, or, you know, a lot more interest. That could also be what's going on here. So, I mean, I think we did talk about, we're hoping that a consultant could help us envision what happens in that space. And I think we've intentionally left it a little undefined, because we're looking for that guidance from a consultant that's their expertise, is finding the right art for the right space. So it could boil down to being a money issue.
Thank you. Beth?
Okay, well, I've been sort of saying this all along that I want to start by saying I totally appreciate, especially people who've been on this committee for a lot longer than I have, wanting to move forward and do something. But I have been saying all along that we just kind of like pulled this figure of $200,000 out of thin air. We pulled the amount that we wanted to put to the 12% for the consultant out of thin air. We haven't really thought about what we want. It's a relatively small job. The question, is we don't have a theme. We don't have an idea. I don't feel like we've really done the thinking that we need to do. And when I read the RFP, and I said this back in one of the feature minutes, like, I wouldn't apply for that. There was like, I don't know what it is. I'm just going to go on a wild goose chase with you all. And for a small amount of money. So I feel like I'm not surprised that we didn't get because a big response, because I don't think it was clear what we were asking for. And listening to, like, for example, the woman from Belmont, I would prefer to spend the time really just, I know it's boring, but getting the master plan really honed out and coming together as a committee so that we have a vision for something cohesive that's going to be able to be used as a foundation for all the different projects that we're going to do. Because, like, for example, at the very end, she said, I took notes because I was just like, yeah, and she was sort of an afterthought. She said, one of my big things of advice was to really think about, once you have a piece, once you commission some work, you have to think about who owns it. Have we acquired it? Who and how is it going to be installed? How do we maintain it? And then like that article that I sent from the LA Times and everything, to think about at what point, if you don't want it anymore, how do you involve the artist, or do you not involve the artist in deinstalling it? You know, and then what happens to the artwork? And there's so many questions in this that really need to be ironed out before we enter into it. And, you know, on one side, I can just say, okay, it's just like a small little park, let's not make a big deal out of it. But I also feel like this is our chance to really do it right and think about these kinds of really longer term planning issues. And then the other part too, as I was looking at all of the different public art projects and parks and things that I experienced, not only in Canada, but also even in places like North Dakota and Idaho, you know, like you came to a park and you knew where you were, you know, like a park was, this is a friendship garden, or, you know, this is a meditation garden, or this is a place where people come and play chess, or, you know, it's just like, it had a sense of place. And I think that we don't really have any idea of what that might be. And I think also part of that is we have to start out by asking the people in our town, what do you want there? You know, because otherwise, you know, they're just going to feel like we're paying some another one of those high paid consultants to come in and tell us what we need. And like, we haven't even asked people. You know, it's a really nice space. It's beautiful. And it in those trees, you know, the willows and all of that, I just feel like we can incorporate what we have and, you know, maybe do something super simple to really transform the space. So I just think that, you know, we need to kind of get our act together as a committee. That's my point of view, has been all along.
Thank you, Beth. Lisa?
Well, I agree with everything that everyone said, but here's my idea. Tell me what you think, is that I don't think that we're quite ready for a consultant, as Beth said, if we don't have an idea of what we actually want. And I think instead of possibly a consultant, I might throw the idea out there to get a facilitator. Somebody who knows how this process works and can facilitate us into coming to some idea of what we want, because that's what we're missing. Like what Beth said, we're just not honed enough for a consultant to come in and make it happen, because we haven't decided what we want to make happen yet. And I think having some kind of design charrette, that's a word, design charrette, where we have a facilitator who can help us figure out what we want, because I think we are open to ideas. We just we haven't really had the parameters put to us to help us hone down what we want. And I think we have to do that first. And maybe that's working on a master plan. But I think even just having I'm sure there are people out here who have gone through this process before and could be a good facilitator for us to know what we want art-wise in this city, because we're having a hard time connecting what we do as park commissioners, artists, city council people. We're having a hard time not focusing because we don't want to leave anyone out, you know. And I think that we can do this in a couple of sessions, but we're gonna need some help to do that. And I would rather possibly go that direction than hiring a consultant on art that we don't even know what we want yet, because we're too vague, like Beth said, and it is a park, you know, and we need to really think about it in an art and a park way. And anyways, I'm groping here, but I'm just thinking that a facilitator would help, and some kind of design meeting would be better than an art consultant to come in and just bring us art that we don't even know that we want yet. Does that make sense? That's an
Mhm.
option. Okay.
Thank you, Lisa. Tom?
The one thing that Stuart said that was really interesting was that he got applicants from artists. That that to me is like that there's a clue there. You know, basically getting excited about what the artists want to do there and then reaching out to the community and all that. To me, that's what this is all about, right? And if the money's good, if the money is enough for an artist to get excited about it, then maybe that's what the call is. I think we should interview these people, but also it would be great to actually hear what artists would think about that space. And if they do their homework, they interview the public, they get involved, and they get the contract. I'm not afraid of moving forward without, a big master plan. I think this is it may be a medium-sized project. Maybe we should step into a smaller one, but I would really like to just keep the ball rolling. And I'm interested in what the artists that came through, Stuart, how many, and is that something we could tap into?
I mean, this one, this wasn't a call for artists, so we didn't get very many. We had one or two, and they weren't, I mean, I would say that if you're looking for an artist's opinion, it would be better to go for a call for artists for this area than what we just did.
Absolutely. That's what
I will say
about your answer, right?
Right. I mean, what we were looking for and what we said in the RFP was we're looking for somebody to work with the committee and work with the community to determine what type of art would be best placed there. So I mean, I think I agree with you, Lisa. You're looking for somebody to facilitate those kinds of conversations. That was what we were, but what we were also looking for was somebody who can then take that facilitated conversation and then move forward with that facilitated conversation and work through the RFP process for an artist. And maybe what you're suggesting today is it may have been better to break it apart between somebody to work with the city to facilitate a conversation, and then after that conversation was facilitated, go back out. What we try to do is do both of them, and as we talked about in the committee meetings, was that there was different aspects of this project. If after one aspect of the project you weren't happy with the results, you would just end the contract after that one aspect, and you can move forward from there. So as I said, I think there's a lot of artists in this area who would like to participate, but that wasn't what we were looking for at this point in time. And the challenge is because you as a committee weren't thinking like, what did you want? And I will say that when we did the call for artists at the library, there was, a variety of types of arts that were presented at that one. And then the committee, based on what they were hearing from the artists, made a choice as to what they thought was going to be best located there. I mean, we got people who were sculptists. We got people who were muralists. We got people who were glass, who did glass. We got people who would talk about, doing something on the floor. So you got a whole variety of what you were looking for, and the committee picked what they thought was, would be the most interesting out of all that group.
That's great. I just want to get excited about the art, to get the ball rolling. Is that a facilitator? Yeah, maybe. Maybe we need one. I like the idea. I just want to keep things moving and not be afraid to take on a small project.
All right, thank you, Tom. Okay, so at this point, I do hear sort of two different sides. There's some that want to go ahead and go forward with an interview, and others that would like to take another direction. So, staff, what do you think? Is this a time? Do we have a call for somebody to put a motion on the table? Karen, you had a question? Go ahead. Go ahead, Karen.
Okay, so I'm sitting here listening. Maybe the idea that a consultant for a project like this is way too big. The idea that we can move forward and be flexible and not be married to our own ideas or stuck in our own heads is critical. So maybe you're just going to hear my opinion. So maybe that whole consultant thing with us saying this is a teeny tiny project is kind of a grand scheme for something too small. A facilitator, Lisa, sounds great. We've had a lot of artist interest. That sounds fantastic. So we have interviewed some really amazing artists. So my question to us all, do we need to refine ourselves what we see as being the vision? Because we were trying to stay away from that, because every time we do that, we end up in trouble. Or do we do the right thing and interview the two people who have spent the time responding to our RFP? I think that would be the gracious and correct thing to do. And I'm sort of hearing that there's not a lot of excitement about either of these people, but you never know. If we can just keep an open mind, give them a quick interview, and then have in our minds that we are going to go down that road of maybe we find who could facilitate artist proposals. So if we put it out in a different way and we get all of these artists that maybe we've had before, maybe some new ones, people with great ideas, there's a lot of artists in town and close by, and then appoint a facilitator to help us navigate that. Does that sound where your head was at, Lisa, somewhat?
I was really more thinking of getting our heads around what we wanted to do with the space. Because like Beth was saying, I want us to be able to walk into the space and say, here's the space. What do we want to make it? You know, do we want to make it a meditation space? Just the whole idea of the setting of the art, I think is very important, that speaks to the art. You can't say, okay, here's the space, we want it to be a beautiful meditation space, and then hire a muralist when there's no wall. Or waste our time with art that's not appropriate to the space. So I think we need to hone down that sense of space. And a facilitator, I'm just saying a facilitator because I'm not bossy enough to stand up in front of all of you and say, okay, everybody, here's what we're going to do. I think it'd be best to have somebody from outside, guiding us into how to come to a clear vision of what we want for this particular space. I don't think our budget's too small. I think once we have a clear idea as a group of what we want the space to do, then we can call out to artists specifically saying, we are looking to make this space, I'm just saying, a meditation space. We're looking to making this, and so we're looking for sculptors, we're looking for landscape artists, we're looking for, and bring us your ideas. But I think until we have that vision of that space, and I'm just not, I'm not the person to facilitate that. So I'm wondering if there is somebody who could facilitate that. Okay, let me just back up a little bit. I went to a Park and Rec meeting of the entire San Mateo County Park and Rec convention, I guess. It was small, but they had some speakers there that were really motivational about talking about parks and rec spaces, and there's been some incredibly cool things happening all over San Mateo County. And, they had people who have done park and rec stuff for, 25, 30 years, and they really know what they're doing. And maybe we just get somebody with that kind of experience who knows how to take a park space and get some really cool art in it. And they can meet with us like one Saturday afternoon and help us hone down what we want in this space. Because I think until you start from there, we're not going to attract artists who just don't know what the concept is. That's just, we might, and we might say, oh, that's a cool idea, but that's really putting the horse before the cart. And anyways, that's what I mean by a facilitator, somebody who's done this before, who knows how to get us to that place of of honing down the concept before we go fishing for artists.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. So I'll call on you in just a minute. I want to make a comment and then you'll be next, Madison. So my question is, before we hone in on the space, what it is, if it's a meditation or whatever, at what point are we consulting with the public to get that idea of what that space is? That's my concern, because I don't think it should be up to this committee to say that's going to be a rose garden or a meditation or a birthday party place. So
Absolutely.
that's my concern, is since I don't really feel like we do have a clear vision, maybe we should be reaching out to the community on that space or some kind of facilitator first. I kind of do agree with Karen that the right thing is probably to interview these people, just to kind of, if anything, we can go through the practice. But I really kind of feel like we need to involve the community, because I don't think this body should be deciding what this space is and then hire the consultant. Or somehow, I just feel like we need to involve the community sooner rather than later. Go ahead, Madison.
I mean, I also think these people might, if we want to call it a facilitator, I mean, are there public art facilitators? I just don't know how. They're consultants. They're consulting us. So maybe we need to change the scope of work in the meantime. They might be able to help us do that scope of work instead. And we can adjust it if we can adjust the scope of work. I just don't know that our public art facilitators, as opposed to curators, is that a thing that exists?
I mean, the RFP
Is
did,
this just a facilitator that facilitates anything, or they're like specifically
No.
public art facilitators?
No, I'm thinking these people could possibly do this. I just think that we need to hone this down, our idea, before we put it out to honing down the art. Before they say, okay, here's my posse of artists to do this, we need them to come in and help us talk to the community, help us define the space and go from there. But it could be.
During the interview, we may
and-
want to say that our thoughts on what we asked you for and actually what we need after discussion has changed. And this is what we're thinking we might need you for. Is that something that you're capable of?
you asked for it. That was what we put in the RFP, that they would work with you in the community to determine what type of art and what that space would be. So that's already that should already be part of this process.
Okay.
If you're not comfortable with these two people doing that for you, then you shouldn't pick them, because that was exactly what we were asking for in the RFP, is to work with the committee, hold community meetings to talk about what you would have there, and then work on saying, okay, once we know what we want there, let's put out a call for the artist, and then work with the committee to choose an artist, to help the committee make a choice of the artist, and then work with the artist in implementing that piece of artwork.
It
I mean,
says
that's what we talked about. That's what the RFP had called for.
It says the committee determined hiring a curator to assist the committee with determining the type of art and work with the committee to select an artist to deliver their vision would be appropriate. The selected curator would also work with the artists or artists to ensure the artwork was appropriate for this site. So
The RFP did call for it to be working with the community as well, so I apologize for that if I left that out.
no, I'm just reading further, but anyhow.
What if we reversed it and had the artist be the one that can consult as well and give them more money? I know that sounds insane, but I think we could, if anyone cared about the project, I'm just trying to put it in the artist's hands to win the contract. They have to do the public outreach. They have to do all that work, but they get paid more to be the consultant, and we get excited about the ideas.
Well, we did do that already once before, and then
So there's something here that people are worried about. All right, got it.
So,
I mean, if you were to look at the person from Santa Rosa, what they put in was, assist the committee in identifying the community values the artwork should showcase, develop, disseminate, and report the results of a short online survey to solicit public input on the vision for the public art. So, I mean, they got that idea that that this was to be working with the public as well as the committee to determine what would go there. And and after you interview them, you may find that, you want more input than, they had put in their RFP, and we can talk about that with whoever you think might be the best person. Or you may determine that you don't think either of these two would work well with the community, and then we can, go from there. But that was already what you were asking for. These two people responded knowing that they needed to work with you and the public.
Well, we'll learn something for sure, right?
Yeah.
by interviewing, every poet is a thief.
Beth, go ahead.
By the way, I love the cats on the Davis family cats are mooning us with every. We allowed to say that on the recording, but I love it.
Okay. So what I just want to say is that if we're not excited about these people, I think the generous thing to do is to not waste more of their time as well as ours. So I also think that it's also okay to say, we got your application. Thank you for applying. Our committee is pursuing a few other directions. We'll keep you on file. We'll let you know if we, make any decisions, because to me, I don't really want to waste, it would be a couple hours of all of our time as well, interviewing people. Sure, we learned something, but at their expense of their time. So I don't know. I'm not super excited about that. I also see us being in the middle of a kind of a typical situation of being a new arts commission and not really knowing how all this works and how all the moving pieces fit together, and how and when we reach out to the community and in what ways. And a long time ago, Stuart, I sent you the Forecast Public Art from Minnesota, and they have training people that train arts commissions how to do this kind of stuff. I just looked it up again. For example, one of they have like lots of different people that will work, that are trained like these kinds of facilitators to work with, it's kind of like a board retreat. You have to know how to work together. You have to know what are the things that we're trying to figure out to do together. And also there's the optics of how it looks to the larger community and everything. But like, for example, our talented art just went on the website. This particular one is called Bridging the Gap, which I feel like is where we're at right now. We need to find a way to bridge this gap. Our talented staff is available to train you to facilitate your own public art meetings and projects. Bring us to your community and learn how to create a call for artists and the RFQ process. So in order to do that, we have to know what we want. Facilitate an art selection process, access locations in your community, engage the public in placemaking plans and projects, and write your proposal so that you can communicate that to people that you want to both the artists or the consultants or the facilitators. I sort of feel like if I had to sit down with somebody and say in a paragraph what it is we're trying to do, I wouldn't be able to write anything. And I've been sitting in these meetings for a long time, so that just kind of says, if I can't communicate to people or even to communicate to people in our community what we're trying to do, that I think that's very telling. So I like the idea of a facilitator, a trainer, or however you want to look at it, to come and work with us, spend the money to build that foundation, so that we're not all just sort of wasting our time and the people that do apply time, and even the public. I feel like that's the other thing too. Like when I was listening to the talk from the woman from Belmont, and she said, well, we did surveys. Well, it was COVID, so they didn't have a lot of other options. But I thought to myself so many times when I've gotten those surveys in the mail from the city, and they're asking what I think about this or that housing project or development project, or whatever. And I'm just like, I'm not wasting my time again. I filled out so many of those surveys. So we have to find some other way to, because I always felt like nobody ever followed up on it. I never heard any results. I never saw anything that I had suggested come to fruition. So after a while, you get this kind of feeling like, why am I doing this? So what's that?
Sorry, there was a kitty butt right in the
Oh,
face.
kitty butt. Okay. So anyways, I just think that, it's worth taking the time that we need to think about what it is we're doing as a committee, how we want to make these kinds of decisions, how we want to think about creating RFPs, when, how we want to interact with the public, doing it in a way that there's follow through and people can feel excited and feel invested. I'm not getting any of that. So I would prefer not to waste these people's time and just really graciously say, thank you for your time, for applying. We'll keep it on file. It's not quite what we're not quite ready at this point. Find some way to say it.
All right,
Okay.
thank you. Karen, you had a hand up? Your hand up?
Yeah, sorry, Beth. You cannot make an assumption that we all feel the way that you do. And to say that you've already made up your mind that you don't like these two applications goes right back to my first comment, which is we've had sensational applications before. And then when we interviewed people, they were hell on wheels that we would not want anywhere near our staff, our committees, or our citizenry. On the other hand, we've had some applications for various things that were really weak. And then you interview the person and they just wrote weak applications, but were fantastic and perfect for the job. So you're making an assumption that we all feel the same way that you do. And that is an unconscious bias that I can't entertain. And I think that these people have put the applications in and spent the time. We don't have to spend hours of their time interviewing them, but we do owe them the courtesy of talking to them. And I'm not sure. I don't think they might be the right person because of all the interviews we've sat through that had shitty resumes, but fabulous interviews. So I'm sorry, I really disagree with your perspective and hope that our committee doesn't turn everybody down because they don't on first blush like a resume that could end up being great. So sorry, totally disagree with you there.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah. Go ahead.
With all due respect, Karen, that you're not hearing what I'm saying, because I'm not saying that I don't think, I'm not excited about either one. I will say that up front, but I'm also sure. I just don't think we know what we want them to really do. So that's why I'm saying, why waste their time any further? Personally, I said from the very beginning, I didn't think we were ready to send out an RFP, but the rest of the group voted on it and there it went. Here we are in this situation. We got a couple of people that responded. Sure, they could be fine, but what are we asking them to do? We don't know what we want. So why are we wasting everyone's time?
But we may
That's
just
what I
say
mean.
that. We may just say that. We may say, hey, listen, like, we don't really know what we want. And we're hoping that you can help facilitate like us to have a brainstorming or kind of based on your expertise, give a sense of what you think makes sense in that area and facilitate a public outreach so we get information from the public about what they think should go there. And maybe that's the first step. And then the second step is, actually helping them curate an artist for us. And at that point, and they may say, okay, that's fine, but the billable hours for that is going to be closer to $30,000 or what have you. So they may be able to, do that. I think the question here is, it sounds like there's what the real divide is. It sounds like some of the committee just doesn't want to move forward with art in that space, regardless of how defined we are in our vision. That part of the committee feels that we should table all art projects and focus only on doing the public art master plan and getting more educated as a committee on how this process moves. And I think that if it sounds like if we're not doing that, then you may not like anything that happens with respect to moving forward with a project, because fundamentally the thought of doing that right now doesn't align with what you think is appropriate. And I don't know if I have that wrong, but I think it's important to acknowledge that like there's a bigger thing happening here, which is like a resistance to the project as a whole, regardless of how defined the vision might be. I feel like I've
Thank
heard
you.
that from Beth and Danette.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on that. I would say I'm definitely from the camp of I didn't feel like this when I started on this committee, but over time I've come to really feel like we need a master plan. Now, that being said, I still like the idea of having art in that area, but again, I feel like there needs to be a master plan for, that's a big area. And I think it involves like a lot of different moving parts, on the use, on landscaping, on public works. It has hardscape. There's a lot of moving things, and I don't know if that's the art. I don't know if the art is the land, or what the actual use of that. So I feel like even the 200,000 may not be enough. So I don't really have a good vision for that area. Like, I don't feel like I have a master plan for that area before we can move on to art. So that's where I'm coming from for that area. I think it involves Park and Rec. I think it involves like a variety of different committees, actually. That's where I'm coming from. So yeah, I'm itching to do something too, but I still don't want, I want to be prudent with the funds that are there, and I just don't want to spend money and be short somewhere else down the line because we wanted to just get something done. And now the bigger picture, we're not able to because that account is so much lower. And yes, we keep on saying, oh, it's going to be replenished because the Baylands. We don't know what's going on with the Baylands. We don't know what's going to happen. Who knows what's going to be there? I think we need to be really responsible with the money that is in that account. We have to be good stewards of that money and not just spend it just because it's there and it's burning a hole in our pockets. So that's what I would like to say about that, the concept and where I am with the project. Anybody else want
I
to
just want
comment?
to say, I second everything Danette said. You said it really well. Thank you.
Coming in to this group kind of from 10,000 feet, I think we need to get excited about something. You know, we get excited about something because it's money, structure, plans. That's not very creative, and we're the Arts Commission. So my goal is to try to get excited about a project, and the excitement comes from the creativity from the artists, and then the public obviously has to be a part of that. So that's what I'm excited about. That's my last comment.
All right. Any other comments before we
Yeah,
decide what we're doing with this item here?
I have
Beth?
one other thing. I just want to say, Tom, I appreciate that desire, but I also want to say that we have the opportunity to be part of something that's bigger than a small project in a park, to like really create an overall vision for what the identity of this town creatively,
No, I
and what's
get it.
possible, and how things are going to connect, and how people are going to interact with space and our town, and how it's also going to be have a sense of identity for people who aren't from our town, and how the people move through it, and the traffic and the building. I think like that is really super creative and exciting, you know. And I guess what I fully understand everyone's wanting to sink their teeth into something, but it is creative to think about a big master plan.
Without a doubt.
Thank you. All right. I just want to let you know we have about 20 minutes left in this meeting. So I think, I don't know if there's a motion on the table. Stuart, I'm asking for some, committee members, but I think we need to move on to item C. I'm not sure how much time we need for that. which is discussing the master plan. So, Stuart, do you have any insight?
I mean, I'm hearing that people do want to interview the two, and we can schedule, we can work with your schedules to find what days would be, what day would be good. As I suggested in the staff report, it may be, 45 minutes for each of the two, and then maybe a half an hour for your discussion. So as Beth said, it'll probably be a 2-hour meeting to do that, and we can, move forward with that. And that's, and then you can make a decision from there as to what you want to do. I mean, I've heard from, it sounds like a majority of the group that says, moving forward is, at least interviewing these two at this point in time makes sense. How you interview them, maybe we want to have a meeting beforehand to talk about what questions the committee wants to ask the group, because it seems as if the real focus isn't so much on what art they bring, but on what the process is that they will do to bring the art here. And so you might want to talk about that as a committee first, to talk about what kinds of questions you want to get out of the artists, and then I can give out of the consultants, and I can give the consultants facilitators more of an idea of what they should be focusing on during their presentation. And I see Lisa has her hand up, and you were looking down, Danette.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
No, that's fine. I just didn't want Lisa to feel like she was ignored.
All right, Lisa, you have a question?
Yeah, it's very quick. Yeah, and maybe when we interview these people and we put it out there and just let our laundry fly and say, we're really having a hard time figuring out how we involve the community and how we get excited and how we, can you help us? Can you help us facilitate how we come to a decision point and see what the reaction is? I think that's a good place to start.
It
All
might-
right, so at this time, does this require a motion? Or what do we
I
do on
think-
this?
I think the real question is going to be setting a meeting to talk about what you want from the consultants, so that way we can work with the consultants so they can give you the best presentation possible, and then determine when would be a good time for the presentations.
All right, so we're gonna come back at our next meeting and discuss item B again. Is that correct?
I think, you might want to try and set up a meeting sometime between now and the end of, middle of December, so that way you don't run into the holidays again.
So could I make a couple proposals, looking at, well, first of all, I want to welcome Noreen. She will be replacing Stuart on his way out. So she'll get to wrangle you guys. But there's 2 dates that work for, it looks like, looking on their calendars. 12/5 would be a Monday. We could discuss what we're gonna talk, ask them, and then we can offer them 12/12. After that, we have some Jewish holidays and things like that I know doesn't work for some people, which wasn't brought up previously at the last time I tried to set meetings. So those are pretty much the only 2 dates that kind of work. And gives us.
Free either day.
Sorry?
I'm free either day.
Okay, well, you'd have to be free both days. So that's great.
I'm free both days.
Everybody else?
I'm free both days.
That's 3 for Karen. Tom's good. Karen is looking. Beth is good. Oh, you have a question?
No, I'm good.
Oh, good. Great. Okay.
Okay, so the 5th and the 12th?
Karen's still looking. One moment. And hopefully they can meet on the 12th. If they can't, then I'm going to have to get back to you, but hopefully I would know that potentially before our meeting on the 5th, so then we can try to pin down some other date.
12th, I have jury duty, so I don't know.
You'll be out by 4:30 or 5. Just be a long day for you. Fuck up. No, I'm just kidding. My dear,
Angel, I do
we'll
have
see.
a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So are we really a majority of people that want to spend the time interviewing them? Because I'm not really sure that we are.
That was the sense I got. I mean,
It's a sense, but really, do we need to know? Because
Well, I think we should somebody should, we should have a motion on the table. I think there should be a motion in a second, and then we can vote.
So I don't know how to, should I make a motion that we have a vote about this?
Well, you can make a motion as to what you want the vote to be.
About whether or not we should.
Yes, so
Okay,
somebody can make a
so,
motion.
okay, I'll
either-
make a motion that we have a vote about whether or not we want to interview the two candidates that are on the table at this time.
But I think
You
what
have
the
to decide
motion,
one.
what the motion would be either I make a motion to interview the two people, or I make a motion not to interview the two people.
Oh, like that. So I have to say my point of view
Or-
as the motion?
Yes,
Oh, that's interesting.
or somebody has to.
Okay.
I mean,
I'll
you
do
have to
it.
take a vote. You have to take a yes or no vote on
I'll
something.
do it.
All right, go
Okay.
ahead, Lisa.
Okay, I make a motion that we do interview these people. And move forward.
Second,
Okay, all in
Okay.
I,
favor?
Right. So I can do a council roll or a
Oh, go
committee
ahead.
roll if we'd
Okay.
like. Okay, sorry. Little foggy headed, I'm a little sick. Councilmember Cunningham,
aye.
Chair Davis,
Oppose.
no. Uh, Park and Rec Commissioner Greenlee,
I,
Park and Rec Commissioner Sewell, and Committee Member Grossman.
Oppose.
You missed council member Davis.
No.
No,
not-
she did. I did. I got
I
it.
didn't vote.
another Davis.
Oh,
Honest-
The other Davis.
Council member. Davis.
Sorry, my bad. Again, I said
Alright.
my head's a little messed up. I'm sorry. You're Councilmember Davis. I thought I was short one when I was writing this down. Okay, so we will go ahead and propose, or our next meeting will be on 12/5 to discuss what we'd like to, how we would like this interview process to be driven and questions that we would like to have. And we will propose the 12th as the day that we will be interviewing them.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on to item C, discuss the City of Brisbane Public Art Master Plan. We have about 15 minutes.
I mean,
Um,
I think from a staff perspective, this, you've met with different people. The idea at this point in time would be for, any feedback you would have from those, and then the staff could go out and find RFPs from other cities that have done this and bring them back to you. So you can take a look at what other cities have done for their RFPs, so you can get a sense as to what would be included in RFP, as well as looking, at, some of the public information that the American for Art Society puts out, and also, talking with the Northern Public Art Administrators Group. And we can give you examples of what public master plans look like.
Didn't we already look at master plans?
I think we did, but I think, after talking to everybody, you might, be a little bit, you looked at master plans, you didn't look at the RFPs. So the question is, at this point in time, the sense I get from the committee is you want to move forward with a master planning process. The first step of that is putting out an RFP. So what we would do is bring different RFPs to you, so you can see where the elements of an RFP are. So that way we can go out and write an RFP that the committee would approve, that we can then go solicit proposals for.
Okay. I'll open up for comment on the committee members. Forgot the order. Madison, do you have any comments on that?
No, I'll wait to hear from the rest of the group first.
Karen,
I think we should do it. Not sure how we should do it, but I do want to make one comment that I hope we all take to heart. We cannot let perfection be the enemy of the good, or we will still be sitting in this room in 10 years.
thank you. Beth?
You're muted.
I'm not completely clear. Are we done getting the advice from, Belmont and San Diego? We're not gonna ask anybody else? And you feel like you got enough?
Well, those that you guys directed us to reach out to, those were the only two that responded to us, aside from also Stuart had a couple phone calls with a couple other cities and he had typed up and sent out the notes to you guys. So if you want more reach out or another round of reach out, that is a possibility if you'd like.
Yeah.
Or we just
Um,
go into pulling RFPs and start looking at kind of helping us hone down into that.
Yeah.
That's-
Okay, so you just want my comments if you think we're ready to do that, or is it a good idea to do that now? Is that the idea?
I was just asking for feedback on
Yeah.
his comment on where we
I
are.
mean, I don't see any harm in that.
Okay. Lisa, there you are.
Yeah, yeah, I think doing that is fine. I remember looking at all the processes of other cities getting input from their populations and I just hope that it can be a very inclusive process.
Thank you. Tom?
I believe in investing in the master plan for sure as a foundation. But I also believe from learning from the other towns and city that they were able to do things on their own as well. And they learned from that. And I'm excited about that as well.
All right, thank you. And the only thing I'd like to say, and it's maybe I'm not sure if this is the right time, but I was intrigued about the training sessions for public art committees that Beth had mentioned, the organization, I don't recall. And so maybe that's something that could be put on another agenda to discuss. Because we can't really talk about that now,
Yeah.
but it
And that
does
would have to be an open RFP. We can't just invite one group to train
Right.
us.
I mean, what you would do is
Just to
say
remind
what
you.
kind of training you would want, and then we'd go out and try and find companies that can provide that training and get three, hopefully get 3 proposals back.
Right, but that might be something, an
Right.
item that we can discuss
Right.
at a
You can-
future meeting.
Absolutely. You can put on an agenda, potential trainings for the committee, and then you can determine what types of trainings you would like. And then, we could go out and solicit proposals from different people who can do those kinds of trainings.
Okay, great. So you'll move ahead then on this item, with
Sure.
we're gonna be looking at RFPs at the next meeting, is that correct?
Well, not at the next one, because you're going to be talking about
Okay,
what to do for the 12th. This would probably be something that you would do in January, and Noreen would take it over, because as Angel said, I'm retiring from the city and moving on to a different phase of my life. And Noreen is going to be the lead staff along with Angel and working with this committee going forward.
okay, thank you. All right, I think that's it for item C, is that correct? Anything else on item C? Any further staff comments or committee member comments? Raise your hand.
I just want to say congratulations, Stuart.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Stuart.
Yes, congrats.
And thank you for your service all these years.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, we will move on to public comment at this time.
Okay, one moment. I did not receive any texts. Let me double check my emails. And I hadn't received any during that time since our last meeting.
Karen, you were muted. Did you want to say something?
I think I've said plenty. Thank you.
You muted yourself, Stuart.
I did. I saw your hand go up, so I was thinking you wanted to say something. I apologize.
I haven't received any public comment since the past meeting or during this meeting.
Okay, thank you. And so at this time, I think we've decided our next meeting will be December 5th. Will that be at 4:30? Right, correct? That works with everyone?
4:30 is good. I don't want to put out exact time yet for the 12th because it sounds like a potential jury thing and also the availability of the 2 potential consultants' time. So, but yeah, next meeting.
Okay,
12:05.
their meeting would be on the 12th, right? Ours is the 5th?
Mhm.
Okay, all right, so great. With that, I think we'll go ahead and adjourn our meeting unless there are any more comments. Committee members? No? Okay, we'll move to adjourn at 5:52.
Bye. Have a
Thank
good
you,
night.
bye.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Bye, happy
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.